Howdy, everyone. My name's Nicholas, and welcome to the Headliner PodPod. We're a show about podcasts featuring podcasts by podcasters that's hosted by people who help podcasters with their podcasting. On each episode, a few of us folks over at Headliner sit down to play a game that centers around listening to randomly selected clips from over 500 show submissions. Why? Well, in order to find what we call Pod Zero. Here are the rules. Each lucky contestant will hear a 60-second podcast clip. They'll then need to pick out the correct podcast title from a lineup of 3 choices before being shown the artwork for that show. Before we get the show on the road, though, let's say hi to each of our contestants for today. Starting with Prateek.
Hey, everyone.
Next up, we've got Oliver.
Hey, Nicholas. Happy to be here today. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm happy to hear that you're happy to be here. We're all just one big happy family. Next up, we've got Max.
I'm here and I'm ready for my apology from last week.
Oh my God.
Hadouken scandal.
Max, I just said we were all happy to be here. Don't ruin this for
I'm
me.
not happy. We all saw what happened, and to add to the public record, just so happened there was coincidentally a glitch on Zoom while Nicholas was announcing the titles, completely obscuring what was an obvious clue and thus handicapping me irreparably. And I think we all know I would have got the right answer.
Sure.
Had this coincidentally not happened. So
Sure.
Obvious sabotage. And I just want to bring this element of, this controversy into the light to get it dealt with.
This is what I get for pinging you to apologize and give you the win yesterday, clearly.
Public needs to know.
Yeah, the public has a right to know. It was Hadouken, and Max would have gotten it right, maybe.
Maybe.
Anyways, jumping on forward. I won't yield more than that. It's still a maybe. Jumping on to our next contestant, we've got Jesse.
Howdy.
And Kristy.
Let's go.
And of course, we have our producer, Elissa, with our ad read of the day. I was trying to come up with a more colorful word for it. Nope, it's just an ad read.
Say what it is,
Yeah.
No need to get creative here. Anyways, okay. Looking to take your podcast to the next level? With Headliner's podcast promo, growing your audience has never been easier or more transparent. As a programmatic ad tool, Podcast Promo gets your pod in front of the right audience at a time and place they are most receptive to new ideas and messages. Just provide your podcast's RSS feed some targeting parameters and let us do the rest.
All right, cool. Thank you for that. So, without further ado, let's just dive right into things. Max, it sounds like you had a lot on your mind, so let's just start with you this week, man. Let's just see how that goes.
Let's just hope no coincidental glitches happen on this Zoom call.
So I'm gonna be completely real with you. I think that this first choice is actually something I had sent to you 5 months ago when we were working on something. So if you get this one wrong, that is entirely on you, and I will rub it in.
I rarely remember what I had for lunch yesterday, so
Fantastic.
I'm not remember that either, but let's give it a try.
It's a big examination of masculine energy and in all its forms, and it's unbelievable.
Fred Ward.
Yeah,
Fred Ward.
Philip,
we ever talked about Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins, and how much I love that movie? Have we talked about
problematic politics in
100%.
in that film. Even though it's a great performance from Joel Grey, but that is not
true.
Appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
The action in this movie, though, just staying to this point, because there isn't specific sequences I could necessarily extract and say, what do you think of this sequence? It's almost like the whole film is, certainly the whole second half is like that. And the final point I was just going to make about how wonderful the action is in this film, because we've used this word a few times, and to me this is where an action movie really works, is when it feels experiential. Because my abiding memory of seeing this film with my parents at the cinema on the big screen was you felt like you were going to get splashed by the water. Yes. Literally. It was such an
Okay, there was your clip, and here are your options, Max. No pressure, which of course naturally means full pressure. Number 1, Die Hard on a blank. Number 2, Mike's camera action with Willis. And 3, welcome to the party pod.
Did you send this to me in the
I
past?
did.
Really?
Yeah, I
Why?
remember because I was like, this is such a me podcast.
And you sent it to me to tell me
I did.
how
No, I
much
sent it to you because we were doing research into something and I used it as a sample. Yeah.
Oof. Okay. I do not remember the name of this one. Okay. Can you read them again?
Yeah, sure. Number 1 is Die Hard on a Blank. Number 2, Mike's camera action with Willis. And number 3, welcome to the party pod.
I like all these titles in their own way. I'm gonna go with the first one just because I like it. But
Okay.
I really have no idea.
Well, it sounds like you did because you did get it right. It is Die Hard on a Blank.
Yes.
And it is a like vaguely Die Hard themed podcast. Hence the title.
When they change it, every episode name is what the thing is that they're gonna die hard on.
Oh, maybe they do that. Like today we're talking about, for example, this episode is about the River Wild. So it's Die Hard on the River Wild, maybe. For
That's
all we
awesome.
know.
This
That's
one's
so
Die
cool.
Hard on a dinghy. It's a great title.
Yeah, it's a good one. So yes, like I just said, this episode is titled The River Wild with Blake Howard. And here's our show description. Welcome to the party, pals. This is Die Hard on a Blank, the podcast where hosts Philip Gawthorne and Liam Billingham explore the influence of Die Hard on action cinema, one action movie at a time. In each episode of Die Hard on a Blank, Philip and co-host Liam Billingham discuss one major mainstream action movie that was released after Die Hard. Phil and Liam break down the story, heroes, villains, action, humor, and the Die Hard DNA that's infused in each film, including common cast and crew members. They rate each film and hand out Die Hard-themed awards. For casual fans and action movie diehards, Die Hard on a Blank is a fun movie discussion podcast that treats the action genre with real respect and love. Die Hard on a Blank is created, written, and hosted by Philip Gawthorne. Liam Billingham produces and co-hosts the show. Mike Mayer and Michael Sugar are the executive producers. Olivia, I don't know how to say your last name, so I'm going to apologize in advance. Olivia Eilmer is our marketing pro. Tyson Hubley makes our artwork and videos. Special thanks to Suki Chu and everyone at Sugar 23. So there you have it. Pretty cool idea for a podcast. And again, I remembered it because this sounds like something I would listen to.
Yeah, very you. It's like
Yeah.
type of podcast.
I mean, I was literally just spouting trivia about Italian knockoff movies like before we hit record. So let's just jump on over to our next contestant, shall we? Let's go with Jesse.
Let's get it.
Close it. Pick one.
Also, this references their swords, which tells us that these bowls of judgment seem to be an accumulation of plagues rather than just a succession of plagues, which Laura alluded to a moment ago. But circling back to that hell on earth theory, I found an interesting reference that the darkness and this fifth bowl is described by Jesus as the outer darkness in Matthew 25, verse 30 in the King James Version. When I looked up this verse in the NIV version, there does seem to be quite a bit of correlation. It reads, "And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." This reference comes from the parable of the bags of gold, where the master went on a journey and entrusted his servants with his wealth. This third servant was only given a bag with 1 gold in it, and he did nothing with it. He didn't think, he didn't work, he didn't even try at all. And then he made excuses. This servant was judged harshly for squandering his wealth and being lazy.
Okay, there's our clip, and here are your options for today. Number 1, retelling the Bible. Number 2, Revelations retold. And number 3, my ministry mission.
Ooh, I like that last one.
Hmm.
You
is a
know
nice
how
one.
I am with some alliteration, and I used
Yeah.
it correctly this time. So, retelling the Bible, Revelations retold. Is that what you said? I like that one too, but there's just 3 M's, and I gotta go with number 3. I gotta stick to my gut here.
Right, because you're not a fan of M&Ms, you're a fan of M&M's.
M&M's. I was in a music fraternity in college called Phi Mu Alpha, which was
And they made some like weird science experiment, triple M&M.
Well, no, we had our philanthropy was the Mills
Oh.
Music Mission, and so it's
Okay.
it's triple M there too, and so I feel like it's a sign. Let's go for it.
Okay. That I respect that. That's a good reason, as opposed to like some Frankenstein M&M. The correct answer was my ministry mission.
Woo!
So yeah, good on you. And this was from the episode Unveiling Revelation, The Seven Bowls, Part 2, episode 56. So good artwork for this one. Just very clean, very, very literal artwork. You see like what looks like a Bible over there and then a microphone next to it. And here's a bit about this show. My ministry mission is about this man's journey from non-believer to disciple of Christ. I look for topics that have been a challenge to me to understand as a Christian new in his faith. I invite you to join me as I try to tackle some of these questions, and whether you're newly saved or have been a Christ follower all your life, my hope is for this podcast to inspire, challenge, and educate, and hopefully bring some clarity to those difficult topics. God has placed a calling in my heart, and I want to answer that call. My name is Jason, and this is my mission. So, interesting. It's a very personal-led podcast by the sound of things, which is interesting because I feel like a lot of podcasts are like experts in topics and stuff. So it's cool for someone to just do something and talk about their perspective on it as they're doing it. I don't know. I think that's kind of refreshing. Anyway, let's jump over to our next contestant. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Oliver, let's go with you next.
Thank you. Yes.
It's not just pushing the button to be a good photographer, as anybody can tell you. And it's the same with the AI. It's just not a matter of clicking on something. You've got to have a long dialogue. You've got to cajole. You got to have magic incantations. You have to whisper to the AI to get it to do what it is that you want. And some people, our AI whisperers, are really, really good. I follow a couple of people who get a very consistent look and can make things continuous, and it's thousands of hours of working with these AIs to be able to do that. So hats off to them, but that's what it's going to take.
Truly, yeah, it is. I agree with you, and I'm finding it's all about the old computer programming coding axiom from back when I was a kid, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Okay. So there were your options. Well, that was your clip, and here are your options. Number 1, Rogue Retirement Lounge with Matt Franklin, entrepreneur.
No. Next.
No? Next? Just jumping on over? Okay. Number 2, putting the fun in...
Wrong set.
Wrong set? Really?
Wrong set. Yeah.
Highlight it for me, please.
Sense.
Because that was the next one on the list. Oh, okay.
See, well, Oliver knew. He knew
Oliver
right
just
away
knew. He was on top of this. Okay.
To be fair, I didn't mean what Elissa just said, but I did.
No, I figured as
Take the
much.
win, Oliver. Take the win.
I can't. Culturally speaking, it's not allowed where I'm from.
Oh dear. Anyway, here are the real options. Number 1, Art is Life and Life is Art with Dee.
Maybe.
Number 2, Life Lessons with Duncan D. And number 3, The Art of Being Dar with Dar Dixon.
I'm sorry. Duncan D. What a great Massachusetts reference right there. I love that. Throw it out. Sorry, I missed the third one.
Yeah, that's fine. The Art of Being Dar with Dar Dixon.
Art of Being Dar. Well, since they were talking about AI whispering, shout out to Max, as he is our resident whisperer. I would like Nicholas. Could we get option 1 and 3 again?
Yeah, sure. Number 1 is Art is Life and the Life is Art with DD. Number 3 is The Art of Being Dar with Dar Dixon.
So I want to pick number 3, but then I feel like everyone's going to be like, Dar Dixon is a TikToker from Sri Lanka. That? Or like, Dar Dixon was an Italian filmmaker who did a remake of Jaws, but instead of a shark, it was groundhogs. Like
it was actually Felipe
I'd
Dar,
watch that.
Oliver, but that's fine.
I'm gonna go number 3. I don't know who Dar Dixon is, but I'm about to find out whether
Okay.
it's or something else. Locked and loaded.
Well, you are correct, sir. It is the one with Dar Dixon. And this was from the episode The Kevin Kelly Experience, version 2.0, which means there was a balance patch at some point between 1.0 and now.
I hope they didn't nerf Dar.
They nerfed Dar. He was too good. They balance checked him. So, yes, the description for this show is the quick and succinct: art is life, and life is art. So, there you have it. Interesting stuff. You know, I'm a sucker for life being art and art being life. And I'm really curious about how they patched our friend Kevin Kelly. Who knows? At any rate, you guys are all on the money today so far. How about that? Last week, you guys got really close and then you didn't. Now you're on track. So let's see if you can keep this momentum up.
Been studying.
Coming up, you've been studying picking from random options, I see. Interesting. Coming up next, we have Prateek.
Let's do it. Eyes are closed.
Okie doke.
Thank you for announcing that, by the way. I appreciate that.
But then the wage inflation drives further price increases, and you have a doom loop of rising prices. Anyway, I digress. So we've established one, plan to hold your Bitcoin for 4 years, or better yet, 5 or even longer. And number 2, the value of the dollar is constantly declining, not because we don't tax the rich enough, not because Putin, but because of the increasing money supply. So why is it so important to establish that the value of your dollars are declining? The reason that I'm including that fact is that people knock Bitcoin because of its volatility, because it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down. And while that is a frightening thing to live through, we just lived through a pretty frightening bear market. The fact is that your dollars, your wealth, your net worth in dollar denominated terms is constantly being eaten away by inflation.
Okay, here are your options. Number 1, The Art of Being Dar with Dar Dixon. No, I'm kidding.
No, man.
The real first one is I couldn't even sell it. Okay. No, the real first option is Rogue Retirement Lounge with Matt Franklin, entrepreneur, investor, Bitcoin enthusiast. Number 2, Putting the Fun in Retirement Fungibles with Maddie F. Number 3, Making Money Moves, Bitcoin edition with M. Frank.
What was the first one again?
Rogue Retirement Lounge with Matt Franklin, entrepreneur, investor, Bitcoin enthusiast.
Got it. So definitely talking about Bitcoin. So I don't think it's the second one. And this was the one that Oliver said it's not. I think the first one, Oliver's like this. I'm going to go for it. The first one is what I'm going to go for, that Oliver said that it's not. No reasoning besides what I just said.
Okay. Well,
Savage move.
well, it worked. So
Nice.
good on you. You guys are getting
I was gonna
really
say,
close
if
to
you
a
didn't get
perfect
that
game.
right.
What?
I was gonna be surprised if you didn't get that right. Alyssa's used the making money moves before.
Oh, okay. I did not remember
I
that.
thought about that and then I was like, well, what are the odds that anyone remembers? So apparently very high. So good job, Max.
There you go.
I don't know what this. I forgot the second one though, but I remember it also being like, no way.
I'm a little offended that Max could remember making money moves, but not the podcast I sent him. But that's fine. We'll deal with that in counseling later, Max.
It's
So
a
yes.
very different level of space in my head. Remember Cardi B song? I forget who does that song. Okay, there you go. I can't remember
Oh,
anything.
yeah, fair enough.
No,
It is a Cardi B song. You're right.
Okay, there you go. So I can remember
Yeah.
Cardi B songs, but anything above that length, space, mental space, it's gone.
Noted. So this was from the episode Bitcoin 101, How to Buy Your First Bitcoin. And our show description is, if you're self-employed and you want to learn about retirement planning and investing, this podcast is for you. And this one's under 2 asterisks, so I want to emphasize it for you. This is not your average, boring retirement podcast. End asterisks. The Rogue Retirement Lounge covers investing basics, real estate, self-directed IRAs, retiring abroad, and much more. We talk about how to find cash flowing assets that can beat stock market returns with less risk. We also cover tax reduction strategies, asset protection, macroeconomics, and other financial goodness, along with other info you need to know as you approach retirement, including Social Security, Medicare, travel, health, longevity, and more. That's so fun. I love how he just said financial goodness at the end there. Yeah, interesting stuff. Good artwork. Just really clean to the point. Tells you exactly what it is. So, neat. Jumping on over. As Elissa pings me something. Jumping on over to our next contestant. We're just blowing right past that. We have Kristy.
Let's go.
Love it.
And we presented him a jersey, and he ran out on the field himself. And see the expression on his face. It was
Did he do a 100-yard dash?
Well, he didn't do the 100-yard dash, but the expression made the struggle and the fight to get that done worth it.
Well, as a Ramona graduate, I'm appreciative of that as well. So, what other accomplishments or projects are you proud of during your tenure as council member?
Well, we obviously talked a little bit about the Arlington Heights Sports Park, but we've also had, I think, an opportunity to revitalize Arlington Village. We have 5 historic murals in the city. We have a wildly successful chili cook-off every Memorial Day weekend. But really, we've just scratched the surface. We've got some exciting projects coming to Arlington that's going to continue to revitalize the Arlington community. Every time I enjoy a soft serve ice cream cone at Dairy Queen at California Square, that again was worth the fight to keep the Dairy Queen in California Square. And also the Citrus Park.
Okay.
Okay.
There you have it. And here are your 3 options. And I promise, by the way, I want to put this out there for the record so that I don't sound like I'm always picking on you, Kristy. These 3 names, this is purely coincidental. I swear.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
I don't know what this means.
If I had a Bible to swear on, I would. So
I can
here
choose
you are.
one.
No, by all
What's it
means,
mean?
we're just powering ahead at this point. I'm fair, but I'm stubborn. Number 1 is the city of Riverside, California. Explore Riverside Weekly audio podcast. Number 2, City Council Declassified Riverside Pod. And the third one is Council Conversations, the City of Riverside.
Number 2.
Number 2? Are you sure? You
Yes.
don't want to go for a different one? You don't want to
No.
Perhaps the podcast doesn't take place in Riverside.
I'm going with 2. It's my knee-jerk reaction. I'm just doing it.
Okay. Your knee-jerk reaction is incorrect.
It's okay.
It was the city of Riverside, California. Explore Riverside Weekly audio podcast.
All right.
So sorry.
A 4-hour-long podcast, by the way. Like
there's a lot going on. It's a big river by the side.
It's a big river and it's a big side. Like I get it.
The riverside.
Yeah, and we got Jesse over here singing Neil Young.
The riverside.
I think. Yes. So sorry. You almost had a perfect game. And I love how ominous its artwork is. It's just the Apple Podcasts logo, I think.
There's no description either.
There's no description either. Yes, it is worth mentioning that it is merely titled Explore Riverside Weekly 34, Council Member Chris MacArthur. So we don't know if this takes place in Riverside. They started by name checking New Jersey at one point, so maybe it takes place in like Montville, New Jersey, for all we know. At any rate.
Okay.
Yeah, Oliver?
I find it hard to believe that our resident trumpeter would be humming or singing a Neil Young song. I just want to fact check that.
Yeah, what was that?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's called Down by the Riverside. I'm pretty sure it's a folk tune.
Okay,
I'll do
there
a
you
quick
go.
Google here.
There is a Neil Young version, I think. That's why I jumped to it. Down by the River is the Neil Young song.
This says
it is Neil Young. Down by the river, down by the riverside.
It's an African American spiritual. Roots date back to before the Civil War. First published in 1918. And
that's where Neil Young copied it from.
That's yes.
Anything that was written after 1943. So I just wanted to check on that. Sorry.
No, that was a good check. And yes, Prateek, you're totally right. Neil Young heard that in the 60s and he went, I'm going to put this on something called the Pano one day.
Exactly.
So welcome back to Spotify, Neil Young. On that note, okay, you've all gone once. Let's all band together, see if we can make up for Kristy dropping the ball on your perfect game. I feel like there needs to be a prize for when you guys get a perfect game. I don't know what it is.
We won't, because it'll be me. It'll be me. I'll screw it up. So don't even worry about it.
I tried to steer you away from it.
I don't trust you.
That's fair. That's valid. I am a mischievous character.
A rascal, even.
A rascal, yes. I have been told that I give a little rascal energy. So let's all just band together now, except for Elissa and I, who will throw curveballs at you, and see if you guys can get the next one.
You act reasonably in identifying the group of people, and you can't reasonably identify the person who did it. So in those circumstances, it would be reasonable to dismiss both parties. Let's just say you have a situation where there is a theft from a till which only 2 employees have access to. Now, you have reasonable belief that the money's been stolen, and you question them, you've gone through a reasonable investigation, but you can't pinpoint which of the employees is responsible, but you know somebody is. In those circumstances, you could dismiss both employees, and it would be reasonable to do so. So that's in relation to conduct dismissals. As you've heard, you need to follow a fair procedure, and you need to look at the virtual test for reasonableness of the dismissal, and that includes carrying out a reasonable investigation. Now, what do you need to do in relation to capability or qualification dismissals?
Okay. There was your clip, and here are your 3 options. Number 1, employees' rights. Number 2, HR informant pod. And number 3, the employment law and HR podcast.
Oliver, as our HR resident HR person, do you listen to any of these? Do you listen to this podcast? Does this sound familiar?
I actually listen to all the HR podcasts, but I can't remember the names super well. So, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Looks like y'all are flummoxed. Can we give them one tip, Elissa? Just like one tip. Not even a tip, just so much as an image that one of them gave me, one of the titles.
Yeah, that's
okay. I'm going to strongly urge that you don't pick HR informant pod, because when I read that, I immediately pictured somebody wearing a wire and standing next to his coworkers and being like, so who wants to rob the till today?
I can't imagine.
He's wearing a duster. He looks like the guy from Watergate in like the parking garage. Like, I heard someone wants to cause an HR infraction.
Tries to HR support us.
Yeah. So I don't know
So
if
what
that
are the
helps
other
you.
2 options?
Employees' rights and the employment law and HR podcast.
I feel like they were talking about some law stuff. I mean, I feel like that goes into employee rights, but I don't feel like I was getting big HR vibes from it. And so like going into it, I almost wanted to say, Nicholas, can I have a golden ticket to where if I can guess part of the title beforehand, do we get bonus points? Because I knew HR was going to have to be in it.
Okay.
So and if it's not
a choice, no, you got a choice.
Well,
taken
no,
away.
I mean, in
You
the
have
future, this
50%.
is interesting. In the future, Jesse, if anyone here wants to guess the title blind for bonus points, they can. But just remember, the points don't do anything.
That's all I have, Nicholas.
Okay, fair enough. They don't give you V-Bucks. I just wanted to make that clear.
V-Bucks?
It's the money in Fortnite.
Fortnite, yeah.
I need H-Bucks.
H-Bucks, Heady
H-Bucks.
Bucks.
I'd like
All
to do a
that to be
side
said.
wager.
In the future, you can do exactly that, yes.
All that to being said, since we're taking out number 2 at HR, there's only one other one with HR, and so I'm going to vote number 3 for consideration.
I'm with Jesse on this one.
Okay. It sounds like you guys are going for the employment law and HR podcast, and you are correct.
Nice.
It was not employees' rights, and it was not the one about the guy in the trench coat trying to get his coworkers to break the rules.
I'd listen to that one too, though.
I would listen to like a
envision.
stealth podcast about that. So there we have it. I do like the artwork for this. I think it is like, I don't know. It's a little intense for something that's presumably trying to keep you from getting fired, but cool.
Yeah, this if I was scrolling and just saw this, I would be like, oh, this will be an intense, almost thriller-esque type of podcast, but it was definitely not.
Yeah.
Got like
So-
a true crime pod.
It does feel like a true crime pod about that time somebody robbed the cash register.
Not to make a British pun, but this podcast has the tea.
That's well done.
Can you explain it, please? For anybody who can understand.
So tea is like a colloquial term for gossip or things like that.
Drama,
But
yeah.
it's also, I believe that the person speaking has some British descent, at least, based off of how they were pronouncing some of their vowels. And they are historically a pro-tea people.
There you go. So, on that enchanting note, this is from the episode Unfair Dismissal, The Reasonableness of Dismissal, episode 3. So maybe this is like a season-spanning arc, which does sound kind of true crimey now that I've read that. And it looks like this artwork we're looking at might be episode art, so very cool. Here's a little bit about the show. An update on the law and best practice for managing and recruiting staff and for dealing with any issue that may arise. An easy to listen to legal and practical update. So there you have it. That was our show. And that was our last clip for the day. So thank you to everyone for playing. You got so close to a perfect game. And eventually, once I think you guys will actually get a perfect game, I'll try and think of a fun prize. I don't know. So yeah, bye.